Alexander Skarsgård, you played Perry on Big Little Lies and garnered really strong reviews for that role as a desperate, complicated, and damaged man trying to hold on to his life. What would you say when you first took on the role? What was your main priority in bringing this character to life?
Well, what I was drawn to was the fact that it felt like a very conflicted character, and it felt like that friction was very interesting to me. It didn't feel like the stereotypical abusive husband, the wife beater. It felt very layered, and I was very intrigued by the relationship between Perry and Celeste, and the kind of the volatility of that and the intensity of it. And it was just something I thought David Kelley, who wrote the scripts, had the way it was mapped out was very interesting, and I love the idea that you first meet this family in this affluent neighborhood with these cute kids, and everything is perfect, and it's almost like you watch it and you think like that's like the dream life. They've been together for 10 years and they're still, it's like still super passionate, and I thought it was just fascinating how the way it was structured, and that the fact that it doesn't get super violent early on. It's just like he grabs her at the end of the first episode, and hopefully you'll get this reaction from the audience of like, whoa, I thought this was like the dream couple. Something is wrong. But the fact that it escalates is quite interesting, because in the beginning you don't really know what goes on, and what is that? Is that some weird game, or is that like something sexual going on? And the fact that it takes a while till you realize that it's really, really dark and very bad between the two.
Yeah, and he actually really starts out quite likable and affable and charming. And as we progress through the season, we realize that there are some serious problems in that marriage, obviously. Do you care about when you're playing a character that is dark, do you care about him being redeemable or likable, or is that just not something that you're really that interested in doing?
I don't really care if he's likable or redeemable. No, I think it's, I want him to at least be conflicted, and if there's no matter how dark he is, you want to feel that there is some sort of inner struggle going on, because that's what makes it three-dimensional to me and what makes it feel real and interesting. If you're going to play like just a traditional bad guy, it's really interesting to me.
Yeah. Did you read the source material at all to get prepared for the role, or did you go in cold?
No, I read the book. I wasn't familiar with the book. I was familiar with it, but I hadn't read it when I was sent the script. So I read the scripts first, and then about a month before we started principal photography, I read the book.
Yeah. I know that this was a really long shoot. It was about 6 months working with the same director, Jean-Marc. What was that experience like, doing a TV limited series for such a long period of time? It's really unusual, isn't it?
Yeah, I've done it once before. I did a miniseries called Generation Kill, also a 7-part miniseries for HBO. We had 2 different directors. We had one director who did the first 3 and the 7th episode, and then another came in and did 4, 5, 6. I love the format. I think it's amazing for an actor. It's a dream if you get to work with a director like Jean-Marc on a script that is this deep and interesting, and the fact that you get to do it over 7 hours as opposed to an hour and 45 minutes. It's obviously an opportunity to get to know these characters a bit better, and you're not limited to this like 3-act structure where you kind of have to present all these characters, and then you got to get to a plot, and then this, you can have more of a slow burn, and it's obviously fun to, when you get to play a character for 5-6 months, and you know, it's obviously an opportunity to go a lot deeper and get to know him a bit better.
Yeah. At Gold Derby, we did a poll every week about who was the MVP of it. Discussed it at length, and a lot of fans and people who love this show were really impressed with what you were able to do in the finale, especially in the car alongside Nicole. What was that like, doing that particular scene, and did you do anything in particular to prepare for it?
Not really. No, I didn't do anything in particular. It was we shot that towards the end of the shoot, so we'd already gone through the whole relationship in a way, and all the ups and downs of that. And I think his life is falling apart at this moment. He can't come to terms with the fact that she's actually about to leave him. She's threatened to do this before, but I think he never he thought it would happen. So it's a horrible situation. He's desperate, and he wants to, you know, to have this opportunity to talk to her and convince her that he can change, that he's aware of these demons inside him, but he's finding them, and he will beat them, but he needs her help. It's more urgent and more desperate than it's ever been before. And then the fact that she gets out of the car and joins the party makes it even worse for him, because then he's surrounded by all these like parents from school, and all he wants to do is like get her out of there. And that just increases the level of desperation for him.
Yeah, and then it ramps up obviously at the end of the episode. What was your reaction when you realized that was Perry's fate and he was going to be killed off?
I thought it was great. I thought it was it's so physical, so intense, so primal, the way it goes down, and I love that. I love that all the ladies gang up on him, and together, like smaller predators taking on a larger predator, they you know, their combined strength and you know, will take him down. And I love that it's so physical and so intense. I thought it was a great way to end the show.
Yeah, it definitely was. I think you had most of your scenes probably.
It didn't have to kill me, though. That's the only thing.
Well, it was nice. It was kind of a good payoff for us as the audience to see, like, okay, look, Perry, look, he needs to go, because it's just not working for us.
Oh, right. Oh, maybe I did deserve it.
I reckon you did, but that just shows how much you loved your performance. So, like, you know, I'm trying to put a positive spin on it. But you know, what would you say is the one thing when people ask you constantly, what's it like working with Nicole Kidman? What would you normally say about her?
I think she's okay.
She's all right.
She's extraordinary. She was already attached when I was sent the scripts, and I mean, I've been a fan for 20 years. And my father worked with her on a Lars von Trier film, Dogville, about 10, 12 years ago, and he had an amazing time and loved her. And I worked with Lars on a movie, and he spoke very highly of Nicole as well. So I was very excited. And it was just, I couldn't have asked for a better partner. And it was a very, very tough shoot. It's, you know, obviously very emotionally and physically tough to portray these characters and go through this story. And but Nicole is such a sweet and generous human being, and just obviously an extraordinary actress. But it's I think it was very important that we got along, and that because again, it's very difficult to shoot those scenes, and I'm incredibly happy that I had her. And at the end of the day, because again, to shoot like those fight scenes for 10, 12 hours was emotionally draining, and it's very, very tough. And those were some of the toughest days toughest days on set I've ever experienced.
Really? Yeah, I was thinking, you guys would have been shooting those, those abuse scenes for quite some time. For this particular project, were you able to switch off when the camera stopped rolling, or was this something that you felt was just so meaningful or difficult to do that you kind of carried it through for the days that you were shooting it?
It was difficult. I'm usually quite good at it. I've learned to kind of switch off, because in order to just function, when it's a long shoot like that, you kind of need to have some balance in your life, and you need to switch off and have some kind of go out and be with friends and, just get away from it a little bit. But it is tough, of course, when because those scenes, it will linger, and you'll think a lot about it. And Nicole and I would have to we would check in at the end of the day after those scenes and just really make sure that everything was fine, and that, because it's really weird to shoot stuff like that for an entire day and then jump in your car and drive home. And I was lucky because we shot most of the most violent stuff was here in LA in a studio, and I'm staying with close friends out here, and they have amazing kids. So it was nice to have that family life and to come home to a home filled with love. I'm very glad that I was in. It would have been tough to go to a hotel room and, come home after a day of that and stare into the wall. So that was to say, a lifesaver for me to come home to people I love.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, you've done a lot of quite difficult things over your career so far. Many of us will obviously know you best from your role on True Blood. What would you pinpoint as one thing that you learned and took away from your experience on that series?
It was such a profound experience. It was 7 years of my life, and it kind of changed my career and changed my life. It was, I miss it. And I miss because it became like a family. It's when you freelance as an actor, you form these bonds and these intense relationships, but it's usually for a few months and then you move on. That was the only time I've had like a family I would return to. We would shoot 7 months a year, and then we'd go off and do a movie or two and take some time off, see our families, and then you come back, and it's that kind of like back to school feeling of being reunited. And not only the cast, but we had the same crew for 7 years, and that's something I miss as an actor. You don't have colleagues that you grow up with in that sense. It's usually for just a few months, and so it meant so much to me on many levels. Obviously, career-wise, but personally as well.
And what about the hype and the fandom, especially when it hit its peak? It was pretty huge, especially for that particular type of audience in that genre. What do you remember most fondly about the hype and the popularity in the fandom?
I remember the surprise, because I was only in 7 episodes the first season. I had a long blonde wig, so no one ever recognized me. And I wasn't invited to Comic-Con the first year. But then the summer of when the second season aired, I was in Sweden when the show aired, and about 4 or 5 episodes into the show, we went down to Comic-Con, and that I didn't realize how popular the show was and the impact it had, and I was completely unprepared for that. So I just remember flying to San Diego and walking out on this stage, and there was like 5,000 people in this room, and fans that were dressed up as the characters from the show, and people that have flown in from Australia and Japan, and I'd never experienced anything like that, and I didn't. Again, I knew that people kind of liked the show, but I didn't know that it was going to be that big.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy, actually. I can remember that very well.
Yeah.
It was crazy. It was a good crazy. And speaking of family, obviously you've come from a family of artists and actors. What would you say you've learned primarily from coming from that artistic background?
Well, my father never really. He's always been very kind of hands off when it comes to all the kids. He was he obviously loves being an actor, but he never tried to kind of push us into it or convince us like, like, oh, you should really do this. This is a great job. Because I was a child actor, and then I quit when I was 13 because I didn't think, oh, this isn't for me. And he was just, I mean, it was a 3-second conversation. Like I just said that, and Dad was like, well, if that doesn't make you happy, then do something else. And that's kind of been the core of it. He's just always been, he just wants all his kids to be happy. And if that's, being a barista in Stockholm or working as an actor in Hollywood, he's equally happy. And that's always been it's always been great to feel like there's zero pressure coming from Dad or Mom. They don't care if we're financially successful or as long as we're happy and that we're doing things that we're excited about, they're happy. And I think that was important to me when I left acting and I didn't act for 8 years, because that gave me an opportunity to do other things and then find my own way back into it. It wasn't like Dad steered me in that direction. It was my own choice. And that was very important for me to feel.
Yeah, absolutely. And now it looks like, you've been in another HBO production, and this one could maybe even land you, some award nominations. We always talk about the Emmys, given that we're Gold Derby. So the question about that is, you're on a David E. Kelley production. He's been responsible for creating and developing so many memorable roles for actors who have won numerous awards. Why do you think that is? What is it about his writing that you think resonates with so many actors?
Well, he's very good at writing characters like that you're drawn to, that you're fascinated by. I think and also the narrative of Big Little Lies is very smart. The way it's constructed, cutting back and forth between the week leading up to the trivia night and then post trivia night with the interrogation room. It's a very smart way of heightening everything, because a very trivial argument between a husband and wife will now potentially have more significance, because the viewers will know that, because they just seen a scene from the interrogation room where a character talks about, she was crazy that night, or this happened, or like, oh, they've been fighting, like they were never happy together, whatever. And then you see the couple, and it always keeps you on your toes, because you don't know, like, is this what's going to lead to a murder, or is it not? Is it just like, just another kitchen sink argument? And I thought it's a very smart way of telling a story.
Absolutely. Well, mate, we hope to see you at the Emmys in a few months' time. Good luck, and thanks for your time today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.